What you are about to hear is a true story. Is it weird? Yes. It was an incomplete story then and an incomplete story now. It's still a mystery to this day, and it's a story. So the letter goes, we live in a small town nearly 60 miles from the closest place you would call a city, in an apartment building of 8 units. The children play together, often brutal and far from innocent, while the adults indulged in their own drama, also far from innocent. There was one family that seemed to have more than their fair share of drama. They weren't the only ones, but they just happened to live across from our own apartment, which made us intimately aware of their persistent issues: relationship drama, alcoholism, and the screaming. It was a mess, certainly made our problems look mild. There was a young boy, couldn't have been more than 6 years old at the time. He grew up in that environment. A good kid, real innocent, unlike the rest of us, it seemed. He began to have reoccurring nightmares. No one knew for a while that it was happening. No good reason for everyone to know, of course. It wasn't until the nightmares persisted for some time that we began to hear he was having these reoccurring nightmares. At first, it didn't seem like that big of a deal. I remember having some of my own, as many people do. But I remember vividly when my mom told me that he, the boy next door, was having dreams of a green man that kept tormenting him, telling him bad things. Not sure what all that meant at the time, but I was less curious then than I am now. I'm sure I had more important things in my mind at the time, as a preteen myself. It took some time, but things began to escalate. They said he was still having dreams of the green man. Now I took notice. These things should have stopped by now. Who has this sort of issue this long, I thought. I started asking questions, like, what does he look like? What does he say to the boy? But there were no specific answers, partly because the boy was so young. You can't really expect a clear picture beyond the words available to a child. But soon we would also have another description, this time from an adult. In the meantime, the mother of the boy was becoming increasingly frustrated and worried. She came from a family that seemed to have regular occurrences with the darker side of the paranormal. She would tell stories of her mother getting her hair pulled or getting scratches, random screams, lots of stories that stick with you as a kid and cause you to ride your bike home at the speed of light after dark. And like many people, when you've run out of simple explanations for the boy's experiences, you just want it to stop and you begin to think outside of the box, and that's what she did. When the local priest entered her apartment, he was reported to have remarked, "I could feel the evil as soon as I walked in." He did whatever priests do, including sprinkling holy water and saying some kind of prayer or mantras or something. None of us would have been called religious at the time, so it was hard to know and what to make of all of this. Perhaps what the priest did worked. The boy didn't have any dreams of the green man that night. Someone else did, though. My mom. She said she was woken up in the night by a presence at the foot of her bed. It looked like an old man's hands were clutching the blanket at the edge, as if the entity were holding on to keep itself up. The hands didn't seem to match the rest of the figure's profile. He looked almost like a green flame with long orange eyes that slanted up to the outside. Since she excels at art, I've asked her to draw the figure several times, each time just looking at it in total mystery. She asked if he was the green man that was bothering the boy next door. In a low tone and a deep voice, he said yes. She told him, "Leave the boy alone. Stop bothering him." The green man remained expressionless. She went on questioning somewhat sporadically because of the sudden intrusion and awakening. What do you want? She said irritatingly. He said he wanted my sister, who happened to be sleeping in the room across the hall. You leave her alone. Stay away from her. You have no business being here. She asked, how did you get in here?
The window was open, so I came in.
The green man spoke matter-of-factly. How did you get into my neighbor's apartment? She questioned.
The door was open one night, so I went in.
Once again, the green man replied matter-of-factly. Get out of here. You're not welcome here, she demanded. At once, he dropped down and was gone. During the short time he was there, it seemed as if only a portion of his body were revealed, unless he was incredibly short. She got out of bed to see what window he was speaking of. It turned out to be the one in her bedroom. The screen had been taken off. She didn't recall taking it off, neither did my dad recall doing it. I couldn't tell you the exact time of year, but I do remember it was nice enough outside that people often slept with the windows open, typically with the screen on. The following morning, after telling us what had happened, she told the mother of the boy next door what had occurred. She explained that the green man had claimed to have gone into her house one night because the front door was open. This was a shock to her because she said that some weeks prior, before the boy began even having the dreams, she woke up one night because it seemed unusually cold in her apartment. She got out of bed thinking maybe she would turn on the heat, only to discover her front door was wide open. It was around midnight and there were no reasons as to why her door would even be open. She was only shocked by the fact that it was open, but she didn't have any other reason at the time to think anything more of it. However, when she went back to bed, she happened to notice a tall, dark figure standing in her restroom that she had to pass by on the way to her bed. She said she only remembered it being something like a shadow with eyes. She freaked out and began running to her bed and hid under the blankets and began quietly praying that it would go away. She hadn't made any associations with that experience to the events that followed until my mom had brought up what the thing had said about going to the front door. Unfortunately, this is where the story ends. The events have been stuck with me after all these years. I've never been much into the paranormal, wouldn't even know what to do with a ghost if I saw one. Even after becoming a Christian, I wouldn't be able to say what it was, whether it be a demon or something of that sort. I simply don't know. All I can do is relate the experiences and events above to the best of my memory. I'm hoping at some point to reconnect with the boy. Of course, he's an adult now, but I would like to find out what he thinks of these strange incidents. Back then, we were told not to bother him about it because he was still too young and that he would be a bit sensitive to it all, so we didn't bring it up. Like I said, the story doesn't have a neat ending. It doesn't have the arc of a made-up story has. It's just something strange that happened that I have no ready explanation for, nothing concrete to land on. Call it paranormal if you will. Maybe you can provide additional insight. The way this thing, the green man, behaved leads me to think that others have probably encountered it. So now that moves us on to another incident with, in my opinion, the green man. After I got a full letter on this incident of the green man, which I had mentioned in a prior video, I actually received it was really crazy because right after I got this letter, I got another letter of the green man. So this was also a child, and I believe this person was also 8 years old. He was in his room and sitting at the edge of his bed, and outside the window was a green figure with reddish orange eyes, and I believe they were also slanted as well, and he was doing this motion to him. So this person, obviously being very scared, ran to his mother's room. His mother asks him what's wrong, why are you scared? And he tells him, well, there's a green figure, a green demon at my window. And she goes, wow, it's interesting you say that because I've seen it too. If you have had any experiences with an entity that is similar with the green man, feel free to send me an email. Maybe you know somebody who has seen the green man. I'd love to hear about it. Any paranormal letters, encounters, I'd love to hear it. The email is listed in the bio. Have a wonderful day.